What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for August 16, 2024. I'm Graham Giason Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. I thought this was on par with last week's great episode. I thought this was another very enjoyable edition of the Blue Brand on Friday night. We are headed towards the USA Network premiere for SmackDown, staying on Fridays, which I like to say, on September 13th, I believe. And honestly, based off the ending to the show, that might be the next time we see Roman Reigns on WWE television. He is not currently advertised, to my knowledge, for any other show, including Bash in Berlin, between now and then. Now, they might set up Roman and Solo for the pay-per-view. I feel like if that match was happening on that show, then they would have announced it here or last week. Roman's gotten his fair share of Solo in the past 3 weeks, between costing him the undisputed WWE Championship at SummerSlam, getting the better of him on SmackDown last week, and just completely obliterating the man, on SmackDown this week as well. Now, granted, he was left lying by the end of the show, as he should have been. But it's almost as if I don't even really want to see the match at this point. I wasn't like clamoring for the match anyway, just because of how Solo has been built up, or lack thereof, or whatever. And with the way that Roman's been completely made to look dominant over Solo, they haven't really piqued my interest with that match, especially when you already have Jacob Fatu in the Bloodline, and I feel like that match would be far more interesting and just better in the ring or whatever. But anyway, so that was the closing segment. The overall show, though, back to my original point, I thought was very, very good. I thought they did a great job with furthering storylines, giving away some great matches, and I gotta give props to the people in the crowd as well. I know someone that was there and mentioned to me on Twitter there was a great energy in the arena last night in Orlando. Orlando's been a good crowd before, obviously, you know, the home of NXT, and there was a lot of NXT cameos throughout the night from Ethan Page and Roxanne Perez, among other people, Trick Williams, appearing in the crowd throughout the show. No real involvement in the show beyond that. This was just a great crowd, and it took what was honestly probably like an average show or a good show and turned it into a great show. They were on fucking fire all night long, and it was great to see. So they started the show, the segment that a lot of people apparently, I didn't watch SmackDown Live, I watched it about an hour or two later, did not get a great reaction on social media. That being the WWE Women's Championship celebration for the newly crowned Nia Jax, the Queen of the Ring. Hosted by Tiffany Stratton. You had Pretty Deadly out there. I don't know about anyone else. I really, really like the pairing of Pretty Deadly and Tiffany Stratton. I think they're a great trio. I don't know if they intend to keep them together or what, but I think their characters complement each other very, very well. And at the very least, it keeps Pretty Deadly on television. There was a period there coming into WrestleMania where they had beaten, and I was at that show, where they beat Randy Orton and Kevin Owens in a tag team match, okay? And then they completely disappeared from SmackDown for like 3 months. And they're still not really doing anything. They lost to DIY in the first round of that number one Contenders tag team tournament last week, and that's fine. But like, they should still be on the show in some capacity. They're just that entertaining, in my opinion. And I think they found the right role for them on this show as part of this championship celebration. Now, they were attacked by Michin with the kendo stick, who also went after Nia and Tiffany, who evaded the attack for the most part. But overall, I liked the segment. I thought this was fun. I thought everyone played their roles well. And it's interesting that it was Michin out there to crash the party and not Bayley, who was the one that was beaten by Nia Jax for the WWE Women's Championship at SummerSlam. So I'm not really sure where like the television show on HBO Max, which is a great show, by the way, aside from that last season, what Bayley's whereabouts are right now, but it looks like Michin is staying in the driver's seat, and I believe they set up a future match between Nia and Michin for the WWE Women's Championship. It is not happening next week. We're getting 2 title matches on next week's show. That is not one of them. I don't know what their plan is for that feud, but we've already seen Nia beat Michin at least twice. They could do a third match, but at the very least, like I said with Pretty Deadly a moment ago, it at least gets Michin on the show in a consistent role. She hasn't won a lot of matches on SmackDown, but I think they're doing a nice job of featuring some people who typically aren't even like undefeated or whatever, featuring them in consistent roles. And this is how it starts. Alpha Academy is a perfect example. They don't win a lot of matches, but because they've been constants on the WWE television show under Triple H, and even during the Vince era to a certain extent as well, they've gone over with the audience because they've been on TV enough, in some storylines, and just on TV just in general. And I feel like they've accomplished that with Michin. Not quite to that level, at least not yet, but this is a nice start. So I like the opening to the show. I know some people did not. Maybe the vast majority did not. I didn't really mind it myself. We had Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade Part 3, another excellent encounter in these series of matches between these two. They work really, really well together, and they took a kind of basic undercard feud coming out of Money in the Bank, and they made it really, really entertaining by simply just fucking wrestling. Like, they've cut promos on each other saying, oh, we got to prove our superiority over the other by winning this match, blah, blah, blah. It's a pretty standard, formulaic feud in that sense, but the matches have been good enough, which is no real surprise given the talent level of the two men, and got it to work to the point where they're gradually getting over, and it's nice to see. Andrade was 2-0 over Carmelo coming into this matchup, so it made the most sense for Carmelo to win. He cost Andrade the opportunity last week to become the number one contender to the United States Championship, so Carmelo Hayes getting one over on Andrade, and then they brawled afterward. Carmelo wasn't really happy with the fact that Andrade wasn't, over the top about Carmelo winning and showing him respect. Carmelo kind of pushed him a little bit. They brawled, and the crowd was into that too. They were really, really hot for that brawl. So to the point where the crowd was chanting, let them fight, blah, blah, blah. That was great to see. So I really, really liked that too. We had Naomi versus Blair Davenport, Part 2. They had their first match about a month ago. It wasn't that great. This also wasn't that great. They just don't have a great chemistry with each other. I didn't think it was a terrible match. Some people were saying it was really bad. I mean, I think it goes both ways. I think Naomi, for whatever reason, just hasn't had a lot of great matches since being back. She's had good matches, but I think she had better matches in TNA while she was the Knockouts champion earlier this year, late last year. Blair Davenport, too, was just kind of not on the same level of what she was in NXT UK, and even NXT to a certain extent. They had a fine outing here. Again, not awful, but probably not as good as it likely should have been, given the experience of the two women. But it was good for what it was. Blair Davenport thankfully going over. She has been, I think, 0-2 on the main roster so far. She hasn't had the strongest start to her main roster run. She's made a handful of appearances, but she lost in the Money in the Bank qualifier. She lost to Naomi clean last month. She needed a win here. She got it. The match wasn't really anything worth writing home about, but she beat Naomi as she should have. So they set up a 6-woman tag team match, which we've been assuming we'd been getting for weeks now, dating back to the SummerSlam go-home show. It's going to be Davenport, Alba Fire, and Isla Dawn versus Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi on next week's SmackDown. So Fire and Dawn are defending the WWE Women's Tag Team titles this coming Monday night on Raw against the Pure Fusion Collective, which I can't say with a straight face because that name sucks. And the team of Io Sky and Kairi Sane. I almost said the Kabuki Warriors, but that's Kairi Sane and Asuka. It's going to be Io Sky and Kairi of Damage Control challenging for the championships. So that's coming up on Monday. That tells me if we're getting this match next week, I mean, they're going to do the match regardless of whether Fire and Dawn are champions or not. But it feels like the baby faces, the big three as they call themselves, will win to set up a rematch for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles on a future show, maybe even at the pay-per-view between Fire, Dawn, Belair, and Cargill. So I don't think they drop the championships on Monday night in that triple threat tag team match, but I could be wrong. Stark and Baszler could win them. I don't really give a shit, but I guess they could. They could also put the belts on Damage Control again, which they kind of already had them going into WrestleMania, but again, if they want to, I mean, I guess it's something they could do. It's certainly a possibility. We had Kevin Owens and Grayson Waller on the show as well. The match was good. The crowd was into it. Owens is so over that it doesn't really matter. But I will say this. We have seen enough matches between Owens and Waller and Owens in Theory to last a fucking lifetime. They work well together. They have quality contests together. But it is time to move on from doing Owens and Waller and Owens in Theory. We have seen enough matches from these three. Even Owens in Theory dating back a few years on Raw. But Owens, Waller, and Theory have had this ongoing feud since Owens was drafted to SmackDown almost exactly a year ago. And Owens has won, I think, every one of those fucking matches. Whether it be a singles match, a tag team match, he has beaten these men over and over and over again. So this might be leading to Owens and Cody versus Waller and Theory, but the funny thing is, we just saw that match like a month ago on SmackDown. Not only has Owens beaten these men at every single turn, we got literally that exact same match a month ago. When Owens was, I think he was attacked by the Bloodline on that same show. We literally already saw that match. It was a house show style match. It was good, but we don't need to see it every fucking week. So again, I enjoyed this, but the best part about it was the post-match tease from Owens and Cody Rhodes. So Owens kind of grabbed the championship from Cody, didn't pose with it, but he kind of looked at it in a way where it seemed like he might go back to his old Owens ways of acting more aggressive in the prize fighter days, of doing anything that he had to get his hands on championship gold. Kind of teasing a return to form there for Kevin Owens. Now, I don't think we get that heel turn from Owens. I don't think it's necessary. If anything, I would turn Randy Orton. You could ultimately turn both guys and have them team up against Cody Rhodes. I think it would make more sense if you just turn Randy Orton, and then Orton can feud with Owens going into WrestleMania. I feel like that would make the most sense. And I say WrestleMania, that sounds so far away, but they have taken feuds that start in the summer and stretched them out until WrestleMania. Not to say that's always the best approach, but I feel like that's what they might do with Orton and Owens specifically, to give them direction going into WrestleMania. But I thought the match was good. I just kind of cared about the post-match tease more than anything else. We got a great vignette, I thought, with Santos Escobar and the rest of Legado del Fantasma. Pre-tape vignette with them just talking about beating LA Knight next week for the United States Championship. And he didn't really say anything out of the ordinary. It was a pretty basic promo from Escobar, hyping up the match for next week. But it was really well produced. I thought it came across well. It also kind of allowed Knight to offer a rebuttal immediately afterward in the arena. So the video ends, and then Knight's music hits, the new remixed version, which I think I said last week, like, I need to hear it more to kind of get an idea of how good it is, and, whatever. It really wasn't any need to change the song. Don't fix what's not broken. But honestly, like, I've listened to it a few more times since last week, including on this show, and I actually kind of like it. I think I might like it more than the original. I need to hear it more. They need to release the song on their WWE music channels and on Spotify and shit, but so far, I'm digging what I've heard from that new theme from LA Knight. So anyway, so he comes out here, massive reaction per usual. He also doesn't really say much of note in addressing Escobar, but he does a pretty short, straight, simple job, short, sweet, straight to the point job of addressing Escobar, hyping up the match, and it's going to be happening in Washington, D.C. next week. Now, we mentioned on the SmackDown Lowdown, I'll talk more about this in that review tomorrow here on the channel, that's actually not far from where he grew up in Hagerstown, Maryland. So he kind of has the hometown advantage. They're in D.C., fitting that the United States Championship would be on the line there. So again, nothing really out of the ordinary about the build-up for this match, but they've done a very nice job of making me care about that match, despite the obvious outcome, on 2 weeks' notice. I really like that. We had the finals of the mini WWE Tag Team Championship #1 Contenders Tournament, with the Street Profits battling DIY, with the winners challenging the Bloodline's Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga next week. Now, it could very well turn into Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, but Jacob Fatu is in the graphic for the match next week. So, Jacob Fatu is back on the show. Spoiler, it's in the fucking thumbnail and the picture and whatever. In a walking boot. So, I'm not even sure if he's cleared to compete, but it could end up being Tonga Loa. I doubt, it could be Solo even. Tonga Loa was not on the show. I think he was selling the beatdown from Roman Reigns last week. But anyway, the winners of this match would challenge the Bloodline next week on SmackDown. And it turned into a fucking great match. They got a ton of time. They worked really well together despite the babyface versus babyface dynamic, which can sometimes be great when the crowd is like into both teams and they're two over teams. Sometimes it's not great because they don't really know who to cheer for. That was not the issue here. They were into both teams. They were into the action. They gave this match the reaction it deserved. It felt like a takeover level matchup. Take out the commercial breaks. Those are annoying, but the match itself was very, very entertaining. This could have very well gone either way. DIY just lost the tag team titles to the Bloodline. They're looking to get those belts back. I assume at some point we will get that rematch. With the Profits, their bad blood, I think, goes a little bit deeper and farther back with the Bloodline than DIY's. Now, Jacob Fatu attacked DIY single-handedly about a month ago. But the Profits, they were bumped out of that gauntlet match after running the gauntlet a few weeks ago on SmackDown. They were eliminated finally, in the end, by the Bloodline, who had an easy road to the #1 contendership. But even before that, I think the Bloodline attacked the Profits backstage. They never got their revenge. They had a couple matches coming out of Backlash or King and Queen of the Ring, I think back in the spring. Never really had a resolution of the rivalry. So they will next week for the tag team titles, and they've also stated multiple times they have not held tag team gold in over 3 years, almost 4 years, when they dropped the WWE SmackDown tag team titles back in, I think, late or very early 2021. So it's been a very long time, and they're telling that story. So I wasn't upset at the outcome. I would have been fine if DIY won, and I liked this a lot. I thought it was a great match. And just like that, we were at the final main event segment here with the Bloodline out in the ring. That just being... And I said the Bloodline, it was only Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga with one half of the WWE Tag Team title belts. Tonga Loa was still selling the attack, I believe, from last week. Jacob Fatu was hurt. I don't know. Maybe it was a work injury. I don't know. But he was not there initially. Roman Reigns comes out, and this was shaping up to be an exact repeat of last week. Now, Roman got the better of the Bloodline last week when they had the 3-on-1 advantage. This week, it was only 2-on-1, and he still fucking destroyed them. I mean, he made both Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa look like complete jabronis. And again, I'm thinking to myself, how is this supposed to get me excited for Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa? Thankfully, the positive is, and, obviously the rest of the segment happened, which I'll get to in a moment. The positive is, I think WWE knows the bigger attraction here is Roman Reigns against Jacob Fatu, which is why they had Roman go back in the ring, put the Ula Fala on his neck, and rip to Afa, by the way. He passed away yesterday or the day before. That's Roman Reigns' uncle. His father passed away back in late June, so both members of the Wild Samoans actually passing away within weeks of each other, which is crazy. So my condolences to the family, the NY family. But he went to the ring, put on the Ula Fala, which might have been because, I don't know if they were going to wait to do that or they just did it on the show because, again, the passing of Afa earlier this week. But either way, he puts it on his neck. Jacob Fatu jumps in the ring as Roman's music is playing, so they make you think that the show is about to end. And then Jacob Fatu jumps the ring, completely lays out Roman Reigns with a fucking walking boot and all. And then gets the help of Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa, and they lay out Roman through the commentary table. So it looks like they are building to Jacob and Roman for later down the road. This was the first official interaction between the two men. That is the much bigger match than Solo and Roman. They could give that away in the fucking first SmackDown of USA Network, and I would not give a shit. They very well might, honestly. My only nitpick with the segment, aside from the fact the Bloodline was made to look like complete losers for 75% of the segment, was the fact that we have yet to hear from Roman Reigns. And I know they're probably building to that promo, but we've seen Roman now attack the Bloodline 3 separate times. We know why he has an issue with them, with Solo claiming to be the tribal chief and whatever. The original tribal chief is what Roman Reigns is now, and that is caught on very, very well with these crowds. They're already chanting OTC every single week. But we have yet to actually hear from Roman and his explanation for, just him losing the championship. And we know why he lost. He lost the championship at WrestleMania. But him addressing that and the Bloodline and his absence and blah, blah, blah. They might be building to that. I mean, it's already been a couple weeks that he's been back. They really should have done it on this show. And they could have done everything else that they did. Just having him, after having him cut that promo. They did not need Solo out in the ring again to start the segment. It could have been Roman Reigns talking for at least a little bit. Because I am looking forward to that first promo and how babyface, he comes across, and is it still going to be heel Roman, but just with people cheering? And we don't know. We haven't heard from him yet. So we'll find out in due time. But it was not on this show, hopefully at some point. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a 2 thumbs up worthy show. Another very, very enjoyable edition of SmackDown. A lot like Raw on Monday. They're really firing on all cylinders right now. I think Raw recently has been great, and SmackDown has been equally entertaining in my book. I thought this was a really, really good show. Some of the stuff in the middle, Davenport, Naomi, Owens, and Waller, again, shit that we've seen before. Owens and Waller, they got to move on from. Davenport, Naomi was not great, but it did have the right outcome, and everything else on the show I really, really liked. So again, 2 thumbs up for SmackDown this week. We have a big show next week. Now, I don't think I'll be able to review the show for the next couple weeks. In 2 weeks is Bash in Berlin, and that's happening at like fucking 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern, so... On the weekends where they do the international shows that air earlier, I typically don't have a chance to review the show before I watch the pay-per-view. So I'll still watch and review SmackDown Lowdown, but SmackDown itself, probably not. Next week, I'll be camping, so I don't think I'll have a chance. I'll watch SmackDown at some point. Don't know if I'll have a chance to review the show in audio form here on the channel before whatever, really. I mean, I guess I could do it a couple days later, but... probably not. So keep an eye out for that, which I'm bummed about because I'm looking forward to that show. The 6-woman tag team match is pretty formulaic stuff, but Knight and Escobar, Bloodline, and Profits, matches that we've seen before, but I think with the championships being on the line and the shows just being more interesting lately, I am looking forward to that show. It might just end up being average compared to the last couple of weeks, but I am looking forward to that show. So TBA as far as the SmackDown audio review goes. Probably will be on hiatus for a couple of weeks, but that could always change. Thank you guys for checking out this review. I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a comment, like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.